Has astrology helped you in any way?
Hmm.
And how, if so?
A sense of like connection.
Yeah.
That feeling like I'm not lost in some random, meaningless, swathing,
Yep.
sea of rhythms that have no order to them.
Yeah.
There's a divine cosmic order.
We call it the logos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
Holds all things together. Like if it's all things, it would
mm,
have to be the sun and the moon and the stars and,
yeah,
the wind,
yes.
you know?
Yeah, and then like the idea would be to dance with it in a productive and
Right.
intentional, way. People get very touchy about some of this stuff, but
Just go for
I'm not
it.
I'm not trying to escape the cosmic order, but there is a sense of being free, in a sense, from being dragged along. Symbolic ways of understanding the nature of the time that you're in, or like where you are, the pattern, communing with the patterns of reality. Because we often think about the patterns of reality in terms of stories, and
Mhm.
we are in a story. We live in a story,
A more
real life
beautiful
story.
story.
Yeah,
It's alive. It's playing itself out. You can't feel any peace or joy or patience or kindness or love or any of those so-called fruits of the spirit. You can't feel those when you're being dragged along,
yeah,
right? Because then you're captive.
for sure.
And, like I've thought about how Jesus says he came to set the captives free.
It's a closed circle, the serpent going around the zodiac.
Hmm.
We want the glory of God to like transfigure this, not to escape the Ouroboros, but like to theophanize it.
When you don't understand time outside of its flat appearance to you, then you are captive, right?
Yeah,
And that's what the closed world of the serpent is.
yeah, yeah.
It's bondage.
There is this kind of vertical depth to time.
If you live in the present moment, you actually are living in a timeless world, right? He doesn't live in the future, he lives in the moment.
We can actually expand our present moment temporarily, in the sense where like when you look at the present moment, if you know how to read the stars, you can see like what does this present moment actually mean. Super packed, like this type of thing, where this would be flat time down here.
Yeah. The eye underneath
Hmm.
corresponds to the top of the pyramid, which is in the center, which would be now to me. No?
Yeah, no, that seems right. Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's something about like expanding now as well.
Well, it's like playing 3D chess, you mean?
Something
Doing it.
like that.
Mhm.
You can think about like a completed Rubik's Cube as like the teleological object of like all the possible Rubik's Cubes configurations. It's like encoded in uh,
Yeah.
the center of each base stays the same throughout the
Yeah.
various transformations. So in a way, you can like see the telos of the Rubik's Cube, like that archetypal state shining through the cube rotating, like the teleological object of view, like your hypostasis or like your guardian angel is always apprehendable in your eyes, basically. It's always shining through, it remains unchanged, and we can apprehend it and maybe act as kind of like a midwife helping it to be born into the world.
Would you call that the soul?
Yeah, that's another word. Yeah. And maybe there's a way of also like solving the Rubik's Cube such that we have faces shining like an angel. I'm reminded of the Transfiguration as well.
Yeah.
So astrology is kind of like constellating in a way where it's like there is a teleological object landing in time, like the New Jerusalem.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be it would be like something from above in that sense that's encoded. We can access it and then manifest it.
That also maps on to George MacDonald's idea of being in God's imagination. We have taken something from heaven and brought it into our bodies and co-created, right, with God, right?
Yeah.
All we can do, even when we create language,
Yeah.
is take from those things around us, right? To create with. So we don't create out of nothing. We create out of God's imagination. Everything that comes out of our mouth comes out of God's imagination, the wisdom of God. And the wisdom of God is here. It's now. It's within creation, right? So there's a consciousness within creation itself Sophia, scripture talks about it as groaning and waiting. It's giving birth to something, right? And I always think about it as it's waiting for us to realize the story that we are in.
The book of Revelation might be actually help us to understand the times that we're in.
Like we're at the end of something.
I think we're in an apocalyptic story.
Mechanism by which we train ourselves in the grammar of that music.
And I think if we're able to find that balance of like a right relationship with these things, it can really lead us to a right relationship with the Logos as such.
The kingdom of heaven is in you.
Connecting it back to that idea of maybe the eye being this one place where the teleological object of view is always apprehendable.
These are the kinds of things that you can't talk about because explicitly, I think, because of what George MacDonald says when he says, as you call it.
Yeah.
Right?
This is why I think we are actually in the most fervent agreement. All of the words are just pointing to that, what's going on deeper, or,
Yes. Yeah.
further in, further up, and further in, maybe. And insofar as we are able to be integral in our communication, then the other person, they can be pointed to the point where we actually can experience the other's truth.
The oneness between him and his God.
Thank you so much, Sherry.